Yo!
Welcome to More Fanime. What's up, everybody? Today, let's take a deep dive into one of my favorite villains in the entire One Piece series. That's Arlong. Yes, the saw-tooth-nosed fishman, the scourge of the East Blue. This guy really made his presence known. His design is sleek as all heck, and I'll say it right here, right now. I think Arlong looks way more badass than Jinbei. Believe it or not, I believe that. Jinbei's a cool guy and he's got all that honor, but does he look badass like Arlong? I think not. Arlong makes his debut in the series in one of the 10 out of 10 best arcs in the entire series. One of my top 5 for sure. That's Arlong Park. Yes, Nami's big arc, I guess you'd say, before she officially, truly joined the Straw Hat crew. We first hear about Arlong, how he was released into the East Blue by Jinbei after he became a 7 warlord. All we heard was rumors and whatnot at first. We finally meet the guy. The dude's badass. He's a ruthless killer. He's a total villain. He's been treating the people of Cocoa Village, Nami's home village, like shiz for years. I mean, he did come to the East Blue with the ambition of becoming the top diggity dog of the East Blue of villains and whatnot. He did have the highest bounty at 20 million berries, but still, that was a lot at the time, higher than Buggy, higher than Don Krieg. Don Krieg had a fleet of pirates at his side, and still Arlong had a bigger bounty, and it probably would have been even bigger if the government knew what he was up to, if he wasn't paying off the local Marines to keep quiet, keep hush-hush, because he didn't want Jinbei to find out. He didn't want the admirals to find out. I mean, really, when we meet Arlong, we don't get to see all that there is below the surface. Arlong is got a rich backstory. Arlong, he comes from Fishman Island. He comes from the Grand Line. I truly believe that when Arlong lived on the Grand Line, when he, sailed the seas of the Grand Line with Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, I believe Arlong was a lot stronger than he was when we met him at Arlong Park. I think Arlong got lazy. I think Arlong got comfortable with the position he was in, ruling over just a few towns, including Nami's, and I think he was happy there. I think he felt invincible in the East Blue. He didn't need to train. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that goes out and does 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, and runs like 5 miles every day. No. He's chilling. He's got a squad. There's not anybody who could stand up to him in the East Blue. And as long as the Marines don't get, word of him, as long as they don't send a vice admiral, he could probably handle himself. But little did he know that Nami was going to find a little straw hat boy named Luffy, and Luffy's going to be like the end of his entire, happiness and joyfulness. And I feel bad for Arlong. I really do. I mean, think about how he grew up in the ghetto of the Fishman Island. He didn't have much growing up. He got to see firsthand how ruthless these humans could be, heard stories from other fishermen as well. He was kind of like a person who stood up for the fishermen. He wanted to make the humans suffer the way his grandfather's fathers suffered all these years being slaves, or worse, mass murders of his people by the humans. I mean, you kind of understand where he's coming from. He's just kind of doing it a little the wrong way. He wanted more than just equality. He wanted revenge. And I really like that. He's kind of like Killmonger from the Black Panther series. I don't want to reference Marvel too much, but another factor about Arlong that I don't think was explored enough was his weird relationship with Nami. How he he shows up in Cocoa Village, kills Nami's mother because she couldn't pay the toll, so she's out with the trash, as he says. And, you know, that's kind of sad. And then he takes Nami because of her skills as a navigator. She is a navigator, but she's really good at, you know, drawing the maps. He gets to see that shit. And he's just like, hey, little girl, how about we develop those skills? You're better than any fisherman I've got on my crew. I respect that. They tattoo this little girl, treat her like shit for years. But when she returns after hanging out with the Straw Hat crew, you could tell. You could tell Arlong really cared for Nami in a weird crewmate way. Almost like a father-daughter relationship like Thanos and Gamora. When she returns, he's like, bust out the booze. We're gonna party, baby. Everybody say hi to Sister Nami. She's here. Har, 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 har. That's kind of the attitude he put off. And there was a point where they went through Nami's room and took like a map out of it. And they're like, what's up with this, Nami? You got a secret treasure or some shit? And Arlong looked at one of his top dogs, one of his top generals, and was like, hey, give that shit back to Nami. That's her property. And when he was told to betray Nami, when, you know, she was collecting this money to buy back her village, he was kind of hesitant. Be like, well, I made a deal with her. I don't go back on my word. You know, eventually he does because he's a villain. But there was a small bit of him that was like, I don't want to screw over Nami. Nami's been nothing but an asset to my crew, and then probably thought about it. He's like, I want to keep her around, actually. Jeez, I need her. If I'm ever going to take over the East Blue, I know I've been here like 10 years, but eventually I'm going to get out of this throne, and we're going to go do some, you know, we're going to cause some havoc. We're going to be some ruffians. We're going to take over some more towns. Which I do believe if he eventually did go to different islands and start taking over different towns, the Marines would eventually have caught on. They would have sent somebody like Smoker to take him down, and then Arlong would have been screwed because he doesn't have hockey. He probably doesn't know how to take on a Logia. I mean, when he did face Kizaru trying to revenge the death of his mentor, his brother in arms, Fisher Tiger, he didn't stand a chance. Kizaru is one of the toughest SOBs in the entire series, so that's respectable. He gets thrown into Impel Down. His best buddy Jimbei becomes a dog for the damn world government, becomes a warlord so that he could free his fisherman brethren that were captured because they were trying to avenge Fisher Tiger. Arlong gets into an argument. He's like, what's going on, Jimbei? Why don't we go kill all these damn humans? And Jimbei's like, that's not what I do. That's not the message that Fisher Tiger was trying to, you know, betray, and that's not what I'm trying to present myself. I am now a warlord to help your ass shut your mouth. And I'm sure Arlong's like, I don't want to fight Jimbei. He's way too strong. Aladdin's with him. Aladdin's stronger than me. So I'm sure Arlong was like, I'm pretty tough. And I'm sure at that point Arlong was pretty tough. I would say he probably should have deserved a bounty of 50 million, not 20 million, personally. Maybe because I really like him. I'm a little biased. He takes his crew. He takes the fishermen that are still, you know, hurting after being enslaved, being, you know, they have those damn, those tattoos. They can't trust the world government or the celestial dragons or humans in general. They follow Arlong. He's like a leader. He leads them to the East Blue. Beeline to the East Blue. Get the hell out of Dodge. Get off the Grand Line where all these super duper dogs are at, and just go take on the little guppies. And Arlong had a plan, and he got comfortable, as I mentioned, and that's where he failed. He got weak. He got, he thought he could take on any human in the East Blue, and then when he finally ran into Straw Hat Luffy, truly, I believe if Zoro wasn't hurt, if he didn't just take a nearly death blow from Mihawk, he probably could have taken down Arlong, to be honest. I think that Zoro was stronger than Arlong at that point. He was just badly beat down. I mean, he was able to fight Hachi, who was a tough badass as well. I mean, Arlong really did care about his crew. We didn't get to talk about that much, but I think that he truly cared about his crew. He cared about Nami, and when it was all taken away, when they were hurt by Zoro, he was feeling the anger. And it wasn't just for him, it was for his people, for his brothers. He's sick of them being held down. So you can kind of see where he's coming from. And his fight with Luffy is arguably the best fight pre-Grand Line. I'm going to say it. I think it's the best fight up until Luffy versus Crocodile or Zoro versus Mr. 1. Those two fights I would say is above this. Actually, Mr. 2 versus Sanji was pretty fucking fun as well. But up until that point, I would say Arlong and Luffy was fantastic. So much fun. You get to see all of Arlong's unique abilities, where he pulls out his shark teeth and uses them as weapons, or he has his sawtooth blade sword, or he spins like a dart at people using the point of his nose. That shit was cool. I think that his moves were dope. I think that Arlong easily could have become an anti-hero in this story. He easily could have become like a Vegeta type in the story, where he became a rival with Luffy going forward if they decided to keep him in the story, and it gave him some vigoration. Which, you know, Oda decided to really explore Buggy's character more and not develop Arlong's, even though I think that Arlong has a lot of connections with characters that matter to the story, like Nami, like Jinbei, now Luffy. I think that Arlong has a lot to give. I think now that we're in the final saga, you know, right now we're currently in Egghead Island, I think that Arlong can't be that character anymore. He can't ever come back as a threat. He could have filled the shoes of Hody Jones. There was part of me when I first read Fishman Island, I was thinking, do you think Arlong's going to show up and just be an absolute badass that's been training for years and years, well, 2 years since the time skip and whatnot, and has taken over Fishman Island, and maybe he could have been the one using those fishman steroids and got jacked out of his mind. And, you know, of course he would have the repercussions of that, but it would have been cool to see him all powered up and fighting Luffy in the water once again, one last time, one last battle. I would have been fine with that if that was the end of his character, because Hody Jones was kind of a lackluster villain. He was there just to tell a story, which was a good story. I just didn't really like Hody Jones that much. Kind of a one-note villain, but he filled the shoes he needed to fill. And maybe Arlong's character is going to have an even bigger impact in the end. I think Tekking 101 had this theory that maybe Arlong, Chu, I can't remember the other member of his crew, the Fishman Karate guy, they might still be enslaved right now. They weren't at Impel Down. We do know that. We haven't seen them since. They weren't at Fishman Island. I'm sure there's other prisons out there, but the last time he was imprisoned in Impel Down. And I don't think he was executed. I think that because the Marines had a big old batch of fishmen, they were like, maybe we should send them to the Celestial Dragons. So when Luffy finally attacks Mary Joa, or the fight finally ends up on the Red Line, and they go toe-to-toe with the Celestial Dragons, with the Five Elders, we might see Arlong in the background, shriveled up, beat up, maybe missing an arm, whips, all these bad, terrible things that have happened to him over these 2 years, just being an absolute slave for the Celestial Dragons, and that's just terrible. But it would be such a fulfilling story for Nami or Jinbei. Well, I think Nami should be the one to make the decision to free Arlong and his crew and all the other fishmen and humans that are enslaved, which they'll probably do, but it would be a great scenario for her to be the one to have to forgive Arlong for killing Bellamere. They already mentioned that she's not, she doesn't regret anything that's happened to her because it led her to meeting the Straw Hat crew and having a new family and new adventures. Everything seems to have happened for a reason for Nami. And like I mentioned earlier, I think that Nami doesn't realize that Arlong developed a little bit of the father-daddy, daughter feels. Like he really cared for Nami and wanted her to stay on his crew. The only human. He hated Koala for what she did, still had that kind of spite for little children after that, but still took Nami in. And when Nami became such a beneficial member of their crew, bringing in, the monies and whatnot, and drawing all the maps for them, I'm sure Arlong was like, this girl, I like her style. She's better at drawing maps than any fisherman I know. She's got a lot of attitude, and as long as we treat her right, she'll treat us right. But I don't think he realized just how much she absolutely hated his guts. I mean, the potential was there. It's not going to happen now. I do hope that someday we'll see the guy again. We'll see that beast once more. Maybe on the side of the Straw Hats after he gets freed. Maybe we'll see him finally get his redemption arc where he sacrifices himself for Nami. Whoa, what a, circle we've within there. We get to see him really change his ways. That'd be a fun fucking story if you ask me. I think that Arlong, in a lot of ways, is the villain that made people go, whoa, One Piece is dope. They have some unique villains, which at the time he didn't even have his major backstory yet, but he was so good at being bad and so good. You could feel that there was something that we didn't know about him, and just how unique they looked. I mean, how many shows have fishmen as enemies? I thought that was cool. I mean, before that, you just had Don Krieg, which was You had Buggy, who at the time was just kind of clowning around, who becomes more important later on. But I think Arlong tops the charts in the East Blue. I think Arlong was so badass, and it makes me sad that he hasn't gotten another opportunity, another bite at the apple, as they say, because I think there's a lot of character and a lot of character development for Jinbei and Nami, and I just think that Arlong deserves it, baby. I really like the gay. I think I'd get a tattoo of him because I think he's got a unique design. I think he's cool. I love that his voice actor is the same dude that voice acts Blackbeard, our top villain currently. I think that's pretty sick. This is more Fanime. Don't forget to comment down below. Let me know what you think of Arlong and the Arlong Park arc. Was it your favorite arc? Was it the arc that made you learn that One Piece was something special? That we were on the road to the Grand Line? We hadn't even made it to the Grand Line yet, and Arlong was making a statement. He was really showing off just how great Oda can be with art, with action, with backstories when we get to Fishman Island. I mean, Arlong, I would love to see that guy again. I can't believe Hachi just let them get taken away, and he just lets them get locked up. I get it, Hachi, you know, he had a little bit of a redemption himself, and that's cool, but he's no Arlong. He didn't start that. Arlong did that. Arlong was a leader. Arlong was a champion. And, you know, Luffy kicked his ass through pure anger and grit. I mean, I'm still wondering how Luffy broke his sword with his bare hands. It had to be a tease to armament hockey or some shiz. It was badass, don't get me wrong, but that sword looked tough as nails, and Luffy's just like crumble with one fucking hand. Arlong got taken out with a big old boot coming down, and that's the last we saw of him. It's just a sad, sad story about a big old fish man with all this anger. Rightful anger that he, you know, portrays. Yes! Don't forget to comment down below. Subscribe. I'll talk to you later.